Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle, my friend Alfonzo Rachel, and this is the Virtue Signal, where we try to talk about some of the stuff that's underneath the politics out there. And Zoe, I don't know how well you knew Andrew Breitbart. I knew him rather well. It's been almost 10 years since he died. It's hard to believe, really. But his most famous statement is that politics is downstream of culture. And I've been noticing for quite a long time now that the tide has turned in the pop culture in our favor. And that all the things that were just scaring the living daylights out of me in 2014, 15, 16, 17 are now looking more and more and more like the politics will follow what the pop culture is doing, and the pop culture is showing a turning of the tide. We can get into specifics in a minute, but just to start this little goat rodeo off, do you get that same feeling yourself?
I'd have to say only based on that's what I hope for, in terms of really observing it. I can't say that I'm really getting that sensation. I would only, like I said, it would be more of a subjective view if I were to really answer that question. I'd have to meditate on that more, Bill.
Well, let me give you some meditational topics. 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago, we watched things like Star Wars being destroyed, the whole idea of the hero being destroyed, Luke Skywalker. All of that stuff's being consigned to the trash bin. They're trying their level best to go back to what Star Wars used to be. The 2016 all-women's Ghostbusters, this woke extravaganza, was an utter failure. This new Ghostbusters is a desperate, desperate attempt to get people back to what they had before they went and ruined it. We're seeing this all across the board. The original, one of the guys who made Doctor Who worth watching, has been brought back to make up for the damage that the SJWs have done to all of these things. We're seeing more and more pushback in the pop culture. I just did a Moving Back to America this week on that video I sent to you from this guy named Samson. And I just cut in a bunch of reaction videos of people just reacting to him going off on the whole Biden administration. And they're cheering and they're laughing, they're crying, tears coming out of their eyes. Mm-hmm. This is not what you would see in a society that is bravely marching towards that golden sunrise of a new socialist progressive utopia. That's not what it looks like. I know what those societies look like when the population is on board for the cliff they're about to head off. I saw what happened with the Soviets, and I saw what happened with the Nazis and all the rest of them. This is not that at all. And this is why I feel like that the tide is not only turning, I think it's well turned. That people, no matter how bad things are, and they're going to get worse, that people are waking up to the fact that this whole thing is a bunch of hooey, and that every single time somebody comes out with a woke anything, it's immediately trashed and destroyed. Then they start scrambling to try to undo the damage. I'm certainly not claiming the battle's won, but I really feel strongly that everywhere this thing is turning because their theory doesn't survive contact with reality very well. But you're not getting that sense so much?
Not so much, and I'll try not to give like a long, boring story as to why.
That's okay. That's what the show's all about. We both have our long, boring stories.
Okay, so as I mentioned before, I'm hoping that maybe we'll get like a revisit of that misery index, that we had with Carter. It's like, okay, you know what? This sucks. This doesn't work. Let's try, something new. Now to them, it'll be new. It's like, no, man, these are the principles of old. That's why we're called the grand old party. Like when Lincoln, when they tried to tell, back in the day, and, you had the Democrats, trying to call themselves conservatives, and Lincoln's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. It's like, you want to try to call yourselves the conservatives. Let me tell you who the real conservatives are. And then long story short, we stick to and adhere to the principles of old, those old ways of the founding fathers that ensured freedom for everybody. Grand old party.
You Democrats lost an election and you took the Democratic Party out of the Union and you named it the Confederacy.
Yes. So it's like, let's make sure that we're squared up as far as this goes. And, so that kind of thing, when people, kind of start to lose sight of those things and think that this is something new, like, hey, we're having like this new wave. It's like, no. Look at where this goes, and it cycles. We lose it, you get it and then you lose it. You get it and you lose it. And I'm hoping that, at this point, maybe we know better. The thing is when Democrats, do this damage, they calculate what their losses are going to be. I think it's almost like the same, fighting principle as I think it was the king of like the Zulu nation. He would line up his soldiers, while the Brits are just taking shots at him. He's like, man, are you okay with just them like picking off your soldiers like that? He's like, yeah, I'm trying to get a sense of how much artillery they have. It's like, okay.
Shaka was a military genius.
Right? So Democrats are like the same thing. It's like, okay, Coca-Cola, this is what we're going to do. You're going to take a loss for this.
You guys fly over their position and take some pictures. What we're really going to do is see how long it takes to shoot you down.
Right.
Then we'll know. Yeah.
So Coca-Cola, Nike, these people, it's like, look, yeah, this is an acceptable loss for us. But what have we done? We've moved the narrative down the field. We were talking about fear. That's their job. We're going to promote fear. We're going to promote division, right? This is full on, this is discord in full effect is what they're doing. And for them to promote this narrative for what they're intending to get out of it is worth more to them than money. So I'm looking at these things, and I don't want to be a cynic, Bill. It's like, man, I try to be optimistic and stuff like that.
You're an extremely optimistic guy. You're just aware of the living mess that we're in. And
even with with Ghostbusters, hey, I get it. They made an awful movie matter of fact, I just sat in with the Babylon Bee, right? They gave me a call and I did a voiceover with a parody of the Ghostbusters that they did. And it went over, people really liked it. And, but one of the bigger comments on it is like, this should have been the female version of the Ghostbusters. It would have been more apropos. It's like, if they were going to do it like this is the way they should have done it. But they're awful movies. And just like I said in the last episode, it's not because Hollywood is lacking imaginations, but because they've got too much. And that sort of stuff starts to get in the way of good storytelling, the execution of it, the plausibility of it. This is make believe, but we still want to make it believable. And I just simply don't believe that this is a good movie.
Yeah. Here's another example. It's not just the pop culture. It's just everywhere. If we go back, say 3 or 4 years, and somebody talked about a transgender athlete competing in the school, the emotional landscape then would have been good for her, Mm-hmm. Good for her. She's got the courage to go out there and be herself and do the competing. Well, now we've had 3 or 4 years of this. And very recently, as we're recording this anyway, there's a swimmer, I think from University of Pennsylvania, who was a pretty decent male swimmer, decided to declare that he was a woman, entered the women's competition, and not only shattered records, I believe, I'm not 100% sure of this number, 95% sure of this number, I believe that he beat the second place person by 37 seconds in a long swim. 37 seconds. And when you see this now in 2021 coming into 2022, I have whatever abilities I have to make me worth watching or this channel worth watching is I've got pretty good antenna for a lot of different things, not just looking at politics, not just looking at the economy. I'm trying to get a feel for everything. And 3, 4 years ago, that kind of thing would have been looked on as brave. Now, when you see this, everybody is aware of what they knew before but didn't really have the evidence of, namely that this is the end of women's sports. And I want to get into the whole transgender thing again, so much as to say that all across the board, you mentioned the misery index, which they had during Carter's time. You will not see a misery index while the Democrats are in power today, not with this media and tech stuff. But nevertheless, people are pumping gas and people are shopping for Christmas presents that aren't there. And all of these things are changing the landscape, and people are, and blaming Trump for all of this stuff is just not flying. All across the board, everywhere I look, I see people waking up to the fact that this isn't such a good idea. And I personally think that the 2022 election is going to be a bloodbath of historic proportions, even more than they can cheat their way out of. So I'm not feeling good. In fact, yesterday I was so bloody miserable, I just couldn't get off the couch. reading all these comments, and sometimes just not our comments, just on Reddit and stuff, and sometimes just the massiveness of the ignorance and the arrogance, it's just like, But then I come back to what are the I'm putting my little ear to the rails, and the train and the old western, and I'm really feeling like it is not only turning, but has turned, that the tide is flowing against them now. The time is actually now on our side, that every single day people become less and less and less willing to be called progressives and more willing to be called something other than progressives.
Sure, man. And, I guess trying to more crystallize my reservations about it. Like I said, man, I don't want to be cynical, but just watching how we just keep doing this. Like, say, for instance, we see people getting tired of these things, and they know that something's wrong, and they may walk away from that per se, but we see that people have this tendency to walk right back to what it was that they got tired of. If I can bring up the Israelites as an example again, they got tired of what was going on in Egypt. They got tired of it, and the oppression just seemed to get worse. And they were prosperous. They were prosperous slaves. They were powerful. And it turned out that they were so powerful, but Pharaoh wasn't even worried about them taking over. He wasn't worried about that. He was worried about them leaving. And Democrats, we see that they will fight tooth and nail to keep their voter stock and to keep control. They're the same way. And when the Israelites were finally led out of the things that they got so tired of, they wanted to go right back. And jump to even today, or even in our modern history, with the liberating of slavery. The Republicans freed blacks from slavery. What did blacks do? For the most part, went right back to the Democrat Party. So we have people that seem to just want to circle right back, to their oppression. When we're looking at things, as you mentioned, with the swimmer, all these things contribute to the destabilization of a culture. And that's going to translate not just emotionally, and spiritually and mentally, but financially as well. Those things are reflected in the costs that we pay, because these people line up under the same banner, and because it's against nature, it's going to be against respected, laws between human interaction and commerce. And so it's all going to translate into there. Like when you take, these people who are given over, we had these women who claim to be pro-feminist or pro-feminist, yet they're celebrating women forfeiting their femininity for the sake of gender fluidity. You have these women celebrating men assuming to be women and dominating them. And there's a reason why the word of God words these things a certain way. First thing I'm going to tell you about you. You're a man, you're a woman. That is a biological and spiritual truth. You're going to mess with that? Oh, okay. And then from there, when we get into the Levitical laws, it's like, look, a man, I'm not trying to get into the sexual orientations here, but I'm just talking about it's still all relevant. It says that a man should not lay down with a man as he would a woman. Now, you would think that all he has to say is, look, a man should not have sexual relations with another man. No, I'm going to say it like this. A man is not to lie with another man as he would a woman. Why? Because you're going to have men out there assuming to be women. That's the rub. Okay. It's not just a homosexual relationship. No, I'm going to assume to switch my gender. Even Paul talked about it. It's like, look,
so this isn't the same thing as like the Spartans, right? Where they may be homosexuals, but they're out there fighting for their buddies and their lovers and stuff. It's just like, you could have gone that route. What's his name? Oh my gosh, it's a comedian I just love so much. He just completely left my mind, but basically saying, we should, maybe we should take a shower, not in a gay way or anything, in a manly way, and maybe I could ride you around a Damarera. Maybe I could ride you around the room, like a Viking, but, not in a gay way or anything. But yeah, that's right. It's an interesting point, right? That's not so much even that it's the act so much as it's the perversion of yes. Perspective, but all of this is now in play.
Yes.
It's not theoretical anymore. And once it gets to be in the world of reality, and it's your daughter who's come in second by 33 seconds or whatever the case may be, now it starts to spread out of the realm of the theoretical, and it has an impact. The media and tech giants and all the rest can control the narrative, and we are looking at the damage that they do on a daily basis. They spend hundreds of billions of dollars to do this every year, to create this reality that we're supposed to believe in. But once that narrative is actually in play in the world, and people have to actually face gas prices and empty shelves and their daughters losing to transgendered athletes and all the rest of it, then all of the loudspeakers that the narrative produces don't mean anything.
Yes.
Because they're confronted with the reality. Now, we're in a stage now, I think, where people, look, half of the country gets it. They're not the problem. I'm talking about the people who vote for this nonsense, who support it. Of those people, more and more of them every day are having to deal with that cognitive dissonance of saying, well, I believe all these things, but all of the things I'm seeing now really suck. Yeah. And now what do I do? That's a turning tide to me. That's not people getting on that bandwagon. That's people looking around saying, is there any way to get off of this god-awful nightmare catastrophe that we're on?
Man, I would love to see more of that. I would, like I said, I went to go deliver a package today, drop off a package for a customer. And I tell you what, just, when they pulled that mask thing on me and just everybody's just like standing around, just fell in line with it, and it's like no question of it. And they're just on board with it. I'm like, wow, man, that's really heartbreaking. And I wish I could see more people. It's just like, man, no, this is wrong. We're being controlled. This has nothing to do with protecting us. And your so-called protection is more of a liability to us than the so-called, Omicron, or even before that and before that. This is calculated. This is an attack against not just our country. It's an attack against the world.
Yeah. Natasha and I got turned away from a restaurant that we liked a lot for the first time ever because we didn't show our papers. And we went in and they said, can you show us your proof of vaccination? I said, no, I'm not showing my papers to go to dinner in the United States of America. No, not do it.
Wow.
You can sit outside if you'd like. It was 50 degrees. And I said, no, I think it's kind of the principal thing. And the people right behind us, they were right behind us. Well, here's our iPhone proof of our compliance. And I was, to say the least, pretty upset about this on the walk home. But the other thing I thought about as I had a little more time to think about it was, what did the guy behind me really think? I know he's already triple inoculated and all the rest of it, but what did he really think when he heard somebody say, no, I'm not showing papers. I'm not showing my papers so that I go eat in a restaurant in America. Did he automatically say, well, it's just another nut who wants to die from COVID? Or did it tickle something? Did it put a data point down where it caused him just a little bit of discomfort, just a tiny little bit of internal discomfort? Obviously, it's not a binary switch. It's just, you got this bell curve. And point I'm trying to make here is that this bell curve is slowly drifting away from them and drifting towards us, not even towards us, just away from them. And that as time goes on, more and more and more of these people are realizing that all this stuff that they've been told to believe is just a bunch of hooey, evil hooey. And I just feel strongly like the energy has reversed.
That's the train. Well, I am on that train. I'm on the train of, look, I don't know if you want to do a reverse, but I'm not going to do my part to help you guys stay going down that road. I might not be able to change anybody's mind. But like I said, it's just a point of not having mind changed. I don't want to be driven by fear. I don't want to be motivated by fear. It's okay to have a healthy degree of concern. Do your part. There's practical ways to go about by doing this. This is not practical. And like I said, when people are driven by fear, that's exactly what they're going to do. Driven by fear, driven by pride, driven by this feel-goodism of thinking that they're a good person. They've got this Pharisaic approach to all this sort of stuff. And, the Lord couldn't stand any of it. It's like, man, you guys you're whitewashed sepulchres. You got your dried bones on the inside. So you go through all these, you put up these airs and act like you're such good people. You're fakes. It's fake news. Right?
Stop groveling.
Yeah, knock it off, you know? So that's, you know.
I hate it when people grovel.
Yes. You know, and so you know, and it's sad when you have people who think that, you know, because you live by this, that you're anti-science and all that sort of stuff. Like, no, man, I've been following the science, you know, from the beginning. I follow the all science, the omniscience, you know, who told us about, you know, hygiene ordinances and quarantine ordinances and the things that you're supposed to do to make sure that you're not a liability to your neighbor, and how to practically go about by not spreading disease. I mean, any doctor will tell you, yeah, the best, you know, cure is prevention. Well, the Bible is a very big book of preventive measures to not have to undergo all these things, and all the stuff that people will do that are at odds with nature that will manifest as social and economic woes. So, you know, that's just, you know, where we are. Like I said, if people are looking for an answer, that's my prescription.
You've just given me a great idea.
Nice.
Yeah, next time I go to this restaurant or any other, I'm going to walk in with one of, you ever seen those things with the portable IVs? You know, it's got little wheels on them and holds up the IV bag. I'm going to have an IV bottle that says Pfizer COVID vaccine, and I'm going to have a drip going into my arm, you know? It's like, you've been vaccinated? You've been boosted twice, 3 times? Pikers! Anti-science nuts! I get the vaccine constantly. It's just intravenously fed into my system. I'm far safer than you are.
Yes.
Clear away, rebel. I've trumped you all with my giant chrome staff of virtue.
We got to make a skit of that, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Yeah, I get my vaccinations intravenously, constantly. It never goes away. That'll do it for this edition of the Virtue Signals, made possible by our members at BillWhittle.com. You know, I don't want to be a Pollyanna, and I don't want to be lying to anybody. I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't think it was true, but I do think it's true. I think it's true. I think it's really starting to turn, and if that gives you hope, then it's not false hope. That's the way I see it. For Alfonzo Rachel, I'm Bill Whittle. Thanks very much for joining us. We'll see you next time right here on the Virtue Signal.